Is Abraham Lincoln paying some of y'all's rent or something? I did not expect so many people to get so bent out of shape by me saying I haven't read anything that implies he was an abolitionist. For example, on April 16th, 1862, Lincoln did sign paperwork emancipating all enslaved folks within Washington, D.C. But he did this because of looming pressure. Congress were all Republicans who wanted this to pass. And then, immediately after signing, he asked Congress for $600,000, which is around $22 million in today's dollar, in order to relocate these now freed black folks to Liberia, saying to a group of formerly enslaved black folks on August 14th of the same year, "You and we are very different races. I think your race suffers greatly, many of them living among us, while ours suffers greatly from your presence." Hello? Both Frederick Douglass and Philadelphia philanthropist Robert Purvis wrote response articles to this speech being like, "See, I told you this man was a Schweik supremacist." Robert Purvis elaborated, "Don't advise me to leave, and don't add insult to injury by telling me it's for my own good. This is our country as much as it is yours, and we will not leave it." Horace Greeley, a staunch abolitionist and one of America's first media moguls as the editor of the New York Tribune, constantly criticized Lincoln's centricism, to the point where Lincoln finally felt compelled to reply. Lincoln wrote in an article, "My paramount object in this struggle is to save the Union, and is not either to save or to destroy slavery. If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that." Translation: I don't care about those people. I care about the economy. I do understand that war is complicated, and Lincoln's main strategy for everything, including slavery, was to wait until the very last minute to make any sort of decision so that he could see which way the wind was blowing. At the end of 1861, which was the first year of the war, a piece of information leaked to the press that Secretary of War Simon Cameron had made a proposal that if freed black folks wanted to fight against the Confederacy, the Union should arm them and accept them. And Abraham Lincoln flipped out, saying, "This will never do. General Cameron must take no such responsibility. This is a question that belongs exclusively to me." And by January of 1862, Lincoln effectively fired Cameron and reassigned him to be the ambassador to Russia. Arming black folks was a huge concern of Lincoln's. Any document he signed legalizing the freedom of these refugees, he signed after these black folks had already freed themselves by the hundreds of thousands, because he feared an armed black rebellion once their numbers were too high. And that sentiment was shared amongst many of his top Union officials, such as Irvin McDowell, George McClellan, and Joseph K.F. Mansfield, all of which participated in returning refugees to their masters at one point or another. But there absolutely were abolitionist officials as well, such as Colonel Harvey Brown, who said he would not send the refugees back, as I shall never be voluntarily instrumental in returning a poor wretch to slavery. General John Charles Fremont of St. Louis, who proposed a firing squad for all armed rebels, the confiscation of all of their property, and the immediate freeing of all people they were enslaving. Many northern newspapers were delighted by Fremont's decision, with the New York Evening Post saying, "Mr. Fremont has done what the government ought to have done from the beginning." Within 2 months of his decision, Lincoln relieved Fremont of his duties in Missouri, once again appeasing the Confederacy and the slave-owning border states. Today, my bestie sent me a video of TikTok user Ragamuffin Rip, who was analyzing the fact that Lincoln was actually assassinated 5 days after Robert E. Lee's final surrender, which is largely considered the end of Confederate resistance, aka the end of the war. So why kill Lincoln after the war was over and not during the actual war? Because plantation owners now feared that not only would they be losing the institution of slavery, but that they would also be losing their land. The U.S. government had already seized Robert E. Lee's own plantation, the Arlington House, and essentially turned it into affordable government housing for freed black folks. They had renamed it Freedmen's Village. Their rent was only $3 a month, and the government sent teachers there to hold classes to teach formerly enslaved folks a trade of their choosing. The now losers of the war, the Confederate South, knew that this would probably happen on every other plantation. They needed someone in office who would not punish the South for their rebellion, but would forgive them and let them set their own new standards. And that's exactly what they got out of Vice President Andrew Johnson, who assumed the presidency after Lincoln's assassination. Andrew Johnson issued several proclamations granting amnesty to Confederates rather than imprisoning the rebels or worse. The very people that Lincoln had tried so hard not to upset all throughout the war in order to have a unified country eventually had him eliminated. I have been reading an advanced copy that the New Press gave me of Tom Zellner's The Road Was Full of Thorns, but I encourage anyone to do their own reading on Lincoln and form their own opinions. This book is set to be released on September 30th, and pre-ordering books helps authors immensely. If you can't order it yourself, ask your library to request it so that they can pre-order it. Thanks for watching!